Bush 2.0, 100 ways Barack Obama is just like George W. Bush. The election of President Obama was in no small part a referendum on the administration of George W. Bush, and his victory was interpreted as a sound rebuke to 8 years of open-ended warfare, a vast and growing police state, the destruction of civil liberties, disregard for the Constitution, unchecked executive power, lies and broken promises, hypocrisy and arrogance, a lack of transparency in government, out-of-control federal spending, fever-pitched fear-mongering, rampant corruption, and some really stupid gaffes. But what have we gotten instead? More of the same. A lot more of the same. In fact, every negative aspect of the Bush administration has come back with a vengeance in the presidency of Barack H. Obama. Everything the American people detested so strongly about Bush has not only characterized the presidency of his successor, it's gotten much worse. Don't believe me? The following is a list of 100 ways President Obama is just like President Bush. We might as well consider it a third Bush term on steroids, or call it Mr. Obama Bush 2.0. If you honestly didn't like Bush, you can't possibly justify liking Obama unless you just ignore the facts.
Brothers and sisters, the show you are about to listen to contains explicit content. The Scrap Pile Podcast is a blend of politics, comedy, music, and opinion, exposing the erosions of our freedoms. Bully cops, crooked politicians, and all other puppet masters, you have been warned. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome!
Ladies and gentlemen, it's MiztirE here on the Scrap Pile Podcast. Everybody come on in. Find your seat. Everybody find your seats. We're going to get this shindig started. The anti-war movement in America reached a fever pitch under President Bush, and rightly so. But has Obama put an end to this tragic era in American history? He could be forgiven if he had merely taken some time to draw down troops in the Middle East and abroad. But instead, within his first term, Obama has actually taken Bush's war machine and put it in overdrive, sending significantly more troops to fight overseas, spending more money on defense than even Bush, and engaging the U.S. in even more conflicts, and even ignoring the constitutional separation of powers in order to pursue warfare on a level unmatched by the worst excesses of the Bush administration. All right, I'm going to go through this list kind of quick because it's 100 things on it, but I'm going to put a link if you'd like to read the whole write-up. Number 1, Iraq. We should have known in 2008 that we wouldn't see any real change from the Obama administration. Number 2, first surge in Afghanistan. Think Iraq was bad? It gets better. Mr. Hope and Change kicked off his presidency with a 17,000 troop surge to Afghanistan in February 2009. Number 3, second surge in Afghanistan. But wait! There's more. By December of 2009, less than a year into his presidency, Obama decided to outdo even himself and send another whopping 30,000 troops to Afghanistan. Number 4, phony Afghan withdrawal. In June of 2011, Obama announced a troop withdrawal from Afghanistan, and true to form, it was just as phony as his Iraq withdrawal. Number 5, the rise of drone warfare. The Obama administration's continued and extensive use of weaponized aerial drones to bomb enemy targets in countries throughout the Middle East, sometimes resulting in the deaths of dozens of civilians at a time when the drone operators or intelligence make a mistake. Number 6, bombing campaign in Yemen. Bush bombed in Yemen, but Obama's really been stepping it up. Number 7, bombing campaign in Somalia. Number 8, bombing campaign in Pakistan. Number 9, bombing campaign in Libya. Number 10, defense spending levels. Defense spending has only gone up during President Obama's first term from $616 billion under Bush in 2008 to $768 billion in 2011. And Obama wants more. Number 11, record casualty levels. Under Obama, the wars haven't just gotten bigger, more numerous, and even more legally dubious than under Bush. They've gotten deadly. Number 12, overseas contingency operations. Despite ramping the global war on terror up to unprecedented levels, as detailed above, the Obama administration decided to seriously downplay its title by renaming it Overseas Contingency Operations. Number 13, God and war rhetoric. Number 14, the Patriot Act. A favorite target of Bush critics, the Patriot Act violates the First, Fourth, and Fifth Amendments of the Constitution. passed and renewed over and over again with little debate or deliberation. Number 15, the TSA. Created by an act of Congress during the Bush administration and organized within the Department of Homeland Security, the TSA has been annoying and harassing passengers at airports for a decade now. But under President Obama, it has become more aggressive and oppressive than it ever was under Bush, with the installment of dozens of radiation-emitting naked body scanners throughout the country and directives from the DHS to use enhanced pat-downs that many critics say amount to sexual assault. Under Bush, the TSA was merely annoying. Under Obama, it is horrifyingly out of control. Number 16, the war on drugs. Number 17, the CIA rendition. The CIA's extraordinary rendition program consists of seizing terror suspects, detaining them without warrant or trial, and sending them offshore to outsource their interrogation to third world countries where they are tortured for information and confessions. Number 18, habeas corpus. The Obama administration also continued Bush's suspension of the long-standing legal tradition of habeas corpus, insisting that it has the right to detain suspected terrorists indefinitely without trial. Number 19, you do not have the right to remain silent. The Obama administration actually had the gall to ask the Supreme Court to overrule long-standing law that stops police from initiating questions unless a defendant's lawyer is present. Another stark example of the White House seeking to limit rather than expand rights. Number 20, or test genetic evidence used against you. The Obama administration has also limited the rights of prisoners to test genetic evidence used to convict them. Number 21, the DHS and swine flu. The Obama administration further empowered the growing police state and set a chilling precedent when it let the Department of Homeland Security manage a health issue, a strain of flu referred to as swine flu. Number 22, faith-based initiatives. Number 23, signing statements. On the campaign trail, Obama called presidential signing statements, letters of interpretation and recommendations attached to congressional legislation, unconstitutional and promised not to use them. Then attached a signing statement to a $410 billion spending bill as president. Number 24, Hillary Clinton appointment. Number 25, war in Libya. Number 26, czars. One significant change that will forever characterize the Obama administration is its radical and unprecedented expansion of policy that started in the Nixon administration. The unconstitutional appointment of czars as principal officers of policy within the administration, who answers solely to the president without the advice and consent of Congress. Number 27, distribution of TARP funds. Number 28, converting federal loans to common stock. In a sneaky, underhanded, unconstitutional power play, Obama moved to convert U.S. federal loans to banking institutions into common stock, effectively nationalizing major portions of the U.S. banking industry. Number 29, health provisions in the stimulus bill. Number 30, Census Bureau grab. Obama's move of the United States Census out of the Department of Commerce and under the direct control of the White House was unconstitutional. Number 31, forcing U.S. banks to accept TARP money. Number 32, rebuking SCOTUS. Number 33, non-emergency legislation. Obama promised to publish all non-emergency legislation to the website for 5 days before the president signs it. Number 34, lobbyist. Despite promising to keep lobbyists out of his administration, Obama broke his word again and again, with at least 17 exceptions to this promise in his first 2 weeks as president. Number 35, income tax cuts for seniors. Obama promised to eliminate income taxation for seniors making less than $50,000 a year. He has broken this promise despite numerous opportunities to keep it, including the economical stimulus package and his administration's first budget proposal. Number 36, tax credit for businesses. The president also boasted during his campaign that during 2009 and 2010, existing businesses will receive a $3,000 refundable tax credit for each additional full-time employee hired, and has failed to keep his word. Number 37, retirement accounts. Obama made it part of his agenda to allow withdrawals of up to 15% of $10,000 from retirement accounts without penalty, although subject to the normal taxes. This would apply to withdrawals in 2008, including retroactively in 2009, but didn't include this measure in his stimulus package or his budget proposal. Number 38, the Armenian genocide. Number 39, tax credit for college tuition. Number 40, the partisan tenure. Obama promised a different tone in Washington, D.C., and a move past bitter partisan rhetoric. It took him less than a week as president to berate Republicans and sully the dignity of his office by picking a very public rhetorical fight with a private citizen. That would be Rush Limbaugh. Number 41, doggone lies. If you can't trust someone with the little things, you certainly can't trust them with the bigger things. Obama chose purebred dog Bo for the White House family's first dog instead of adopting a dog from his shelter like he promised. Yeah, that's splitting hairs, I think, there. But yeah, that's right. You can't trust him with the little things. Hey, he changed his mind on the dog. I'm not going to beat him up over that. 42, spinning the auto bailout. Boy, did he. Someone explain to me again why a supposedly progressive president is lying to justify a coerced and illegal loan to a wealthy, irresponsible corporation from hardworking, poor, and middle-class Americans. Number 43, taxing some employee health benefits. Number 44, I won. In his first private meeting with congressional Republicans, instead of reaching across the aisle and seeking earnest dialogue, Obama smugly told them that he should have his way because I won. Number 45, don't think we're not keeping score. Obama to Representative Peter DeFazio, one of the Democratic congressmen who voted against the stimulus package. Don't think we're not keeping score, brother. Number 46, I'm smart, you're dumb. I'm smart, you're dumb. I'm right, you're wrong. Shut up and take it. That's pretty much what Obama said when asked about public opinion against the debt ceiling. Number 47, the Osama bin Laden death. He handled it a lot like Bush did with the Hussein capture. Number 48, schooled in hypocrisy. Obama's daughters attend a private school in Washington, D.C., enjoying the freedom of educational choice that the Obama administration has denied to poor children who live in Washington. More on that later. We'll do more on that later. We'll have more on that later, Bobby. Number 49, golf. That's right. Number 50, mostly basketball. Number 51, inauguration footprint. Despite claiming our environment is in a state of crisis, Obama's extravagant inauguration alone emitted over 50 million pounds of CO2. Number 52, inauguration price. Obama's lavish inauguration also cost a whopping $170 million. This is the same man who said there is no doubt that we've been living beyond our means and we're going to have to make some adjustments. Thermostat, after saying we can't drive our SUVs and eat as much as we want and keep our homes on 72 degrees at all times, and then just expect that every country is going to say okay, journalists discovered that Obama cranks the thermostat in the Oval Office. He cranks it up, baby. Do as I say, not as I do. Earth Day flights. Obama's Earth Day flights burned more than 9,000 gallons of fuel. 55, the race card. In 2009, Obama said, we have to get to the point where we can have a conversation about big, important issues that matter to the American people without vitriol, without name-calling, without the assumption of the worst in other people's motives. Then in 2011, we learned that Obama has assumed the worst about the Tea Party's motives. They're racist. You damn racist Tea Party guys. Number 56, the AIG bailout. Number 57, the blame game. Throughout his presidency, Obama has blamed Bush and stifled criticism by saying he inherited a mess from his predecessor. Number 58, closed-door stimulus meetings. Number 59, closed-door health care meetings. Number 60, HHS transparency. President Obama's rationing czar, who controls the health care of 1 in 3 Americans and has a budget larger than the freaking Pentagon's, refuses to answer questions, grant interviews, or testify before Congress. Number 61, D.C. voucher program. The Obama administration ended funding for Washington, D.C.'s school voucher program while suppressing a study that showed it delivered better results at a lower cost, less transparency, lower quality education, and higher cost. Brilliant! Number 62, prisoner abuse photos. Number 63, state secrets, privilege, and CIA torture. The same group also noted that Obama administration continued to invoke the state secrets privilege in cases involving alleged CIA torture. Number 64, declassifications drop. Further, they found in 2009 fewer pages, 28.8 million, were declassified government-wide. Number 65, only one question. After the Department of Homeland Security circulated a memo to state police departments warning of right-wing terrorism, Secretary Janet Napolitano did an interview, but would only answer one question with no follow-ups about the memo. Number 66, tax returns. Number 67, most anti-leak administration ever. The Obama administration has proven far more aggressive than the Bush administration in seeking to punish whistleblowers within the administration. And I believe this list was pre-Edward Snowden. And probably pre-Bradley Manning. But yeah, they don't take away their... They nail them to the wall. You know what I'm saying? You get caught blowing a whistle trying to show the people what Big Brother's doing. They're going to nail you to the wall. Number 68. Spending way more than Bush. Yeah, Bush's deficits were bad. But if you really believe that, you've got to be willing to condemn Obama's even bigger deficits. Number 69. Earmarks. Obama did a shameless 180-degree turn on earmarks by sharply criticizing them and bragging that he would pass legislation without a single one, and then signing a spending bill with literally thousands of them. Yeah, congratulations, people. You've been duped. A lot of people don't know they've been duped. People listen to this show, you already know you've been duped. You guys are smart. Smarter than the average American. You see this shit. It's all around us. Number 70, stimulus package. $800 billion. Number 71, health care bill. I don't even know the price tag on that one. It's fucking huge. Number 72, TARP. Now, I know this passed while Bush was president. But guess which then senator gets some of the blame, too, because he voted to send it across Bush's desk. Barack Obama, that's who. $700 billion. Yeah, it's weird how those hundreds of billions add up to trillions really fucking quick. Number 73, bailing out Greece. Number 74, appointing Ben Bernanke. Hate that guy. Number 75, measly $100 million cut. But remember, this is Obama, so he's got to keep up appearances, which is why he made a big show of challenging his cabinet to cut a measly $100 million from the federal budget. That's a 0.0027% cut in federal spending. Also, he admitted that this doesn't even represent a spending cut by saying that I will free up more money for federal spending on other things like health and education. Number 76, stimulus package. If nothing is done, this recession could linger for years. The unemployment rate could reach double digits. For every day we wait or point fingers or drag our feet, more Americans will lose their jobs. More families will lose their savings, more dreams will be deferred and denied, and our nation will sink deeper into a crisis that at some point we may not be able to reverse. Number 77, Valentine's Day vacation. And we know it was just fear-mongering, because if Obama had meant the words earlier in earnest, then after passage of the Stimulus Act, he would have not taken off on a ritzy Valentine's Day vacation in Chicago for the weekend, instead of signing this stimulus bill that he said needed to be passed as soon as possible to avert an irreversible economic meltdown. You can also file that one under hypocrisy and lies. Number 78, the debt ceiling. Obama knew full well that he was lying and fear-mongering when he said that he could not guarantee Social Security checks would make it to their beneficiaries if the debt limit wasn't raised by August 2nd. Now, this is pre-shutdown. Without borrowing money, the federal government takes in $200 billion in receivables each month. Plenty enough to service interest on the national debt, write Social Security checks, and continue military operations. Number 79, health care bill. Now, if you remember, the level of panic rhetoric over health care in this country was at a fever pitch during the months leading up to the passage of this bill. Along with the sanctimony, the secrecy, the backroom deals, the sudden changes in votes, the lack of public support, the narrow margin of passage, the size of the bill itself, and the fact that no one had actually read it before voting on it. You know, the storyline's no different than Bush's Medicare Part D. And the Democrats oppose that, many of them. Number 80, DHS memo. This shrill gem, published in the early days of the Obama administration, instructed state police departments that both active and inactive U.S. military personnel are potential domestic terrorists, comparing them to Timothy McVeigh and Terry Nichols. Additional potential terrorists, according to the memo, include Tea Party protesters, anyone who vocally supports the amendments in the Bill of Rights, and anyone who is vocally pro-life. Number 81, swine flu. Number 82, Patriot Act renewal. It was the same old line used by the Bush administration. We need these tools to deal with terrorists. Number 83, Joe Sestak. Representative Joe Sestak was illegally offered a job by the Obama administration in exchange for dropping out of the senatorial primary against Obama supporter Senator Arlen Specter. And Sestak's not the only one. Number 84, Tim Gethner. Obama appointed Tim Gethner to the office of Secretary of the Treasury, even though he was part of the problem with the economic status quo and evaded his taxes for years. Number 85, Annette Nazareth. Obama also selected Annette Nazareth for the position of Deputy Treasury Secretary, who withdrew after a month-long probe into her taxes. Number 86, next is Tom Daschle. Appointed by Obama to the Department of Health and Human Services, he had to resign his nomination for the position because of tax evasion. Number 87, Nancy Kellifer. Obama also appointed Nancy Kellifer for Chief Performance Officer, but she had to step down because, she didn't pay her taxes either. You didn't pay your taxes. Ha. Number 88, Rahm Emanuel. There's also Rahm Emanuel, who served as Chief of Staff even though he failed to report 5 years of free rent at a U.S. congressman's property in accordance with the IRS policy and congressional ethics rules. Number 89, Lois Sussman has been embroiled in a cronyism now after reports that he intends to make one of his biggest fundraisers the new U.S. ambassador in London. The selection of Miss Sussman, a lawyer and banker from the president's hometown of Chicago, rather than an experienced diplomat, raises new questions about Mr. Obama's commitment to the special relationship with Britain. Number 90, Adolfo Karian, director of White House Office of Urban Affairs, pocketed thousands of dollars in campaign cash from city developers whose projects he approved or funded with taxpayers' money. Number 91, Gungate. That would be referring to Operation Fast and Furious. It goes back to the Bush days, too, where they were letting assault weapons walk across the border to some of the most violent Mexican drug cartels there is. Number 92, bowing. In 2009, President Obama actually bowed to a foreign monarch, King Abdullah. King Abdullah. Number 93, the lamest gift ever. At their first meeting, UK Prime Minister Gordon Brown's gift to Obama was an ornamental pin holder made from the timbers of the Victorian anti-slave ship, the HMS Gannet, and a framed commission for HMS Resolute, and a first edition of the 7-volume biography of Churchill by Sir Martin Gilbert. Obama's gift to Brown, a box set of 25 classic American DVDs that don't even work on European DVD players. Number 94, England, UK. To make matters worse, Obama used England to denote the UK, a gaffe that people from Scotland, Ireland, and Wales don't appreciate and chalk up to American ignorance. Number 95, thanking himself. Obama thanked himself for being invited to speak with the Irish Prime Minister because he was having teleprompter troubles. Number 96, arguing with the teleprompter. Number 97, the Special Olympics. I remember this. This quote, Barack Obama. I've been practicing bowling. I bowled 129. It was like the Special Olympics or something. It was on the Tonight Show with Leno. Number 98, all 57 states. One of my favorites. Terrorizing New York City. Post 9/11, this is about the least sensitive, most stupid thing you could do. Air Force One panics New York City residents with extremely low flight plan for a photo op and no public announcement. Yeah. Number 100, Gulf oil spill. The oil just kept flowing and Obama just kept golfing.
We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America.
And the way to make government accountable is make it transparent so that the American people can know exactly what decisions are being made, how they're being made, and whether their interests are being well served. Let me say it as simply as I can. Transparency and the rule of law will be the touchstones of this presidency.
In fact, since taking office, this has been the administration that's prosecuted more whistleblowers in 2 years than in the preceding 40 years. It meets with lobbyists across the street from the White House so they don't have to disclose they're meeting with lobbyists. And, this is true, censored nearly 200 pages of internal emails about their efforts to make government more transparent. How weird has this administration's record on transparency gotten?
President Obama received an award for transparency Monday.
That meeting was completely closed to members of the media.
They not only closed the meeting to the media, they didn't even put it on the president's public schedule.
I believe that every single American has the right to affordable, accessible health care.
But these negotiations will be on C-SPAN. It'll be televised on C-SPAN. It's on C-SPAN.
On C-SPAN.
On C-SPAN.
C-SPAN founder and CEO Brian Lamb tells the Daily Caller that C-SPAN's cameras need more access in Congress. Would you have liked to see C-SPAN in the negotiations to see what was going on behind closed doors?
The president said that we're all going to be on C-SPAN. He never asked us.
This prompted C-SPAN to send a formal letter to Congress today. They are requesting, once again, full camera access to all of the relevant negotiations to how our healthcare system will be changed in this country.
Brian Lamb, the founder of C-SPAN, is urging Senate Leader Harry Reid and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, along with the president, to allow the public full access.
Leslie, why can't you answer the C-SPAN question? I didn't. Well, you didn't because you
I
said
said I hadn't seen the letter, which I haven't.
Why do you need to see a letter? I mean, this is something the president said during the campaign, and he talked about he wants everything open on C-SPAN.
Dan asked me about the letter, and I haven't read the letter. So
I'll just ask you about having it on C-SPAN.
I answered Dan's question, and I answered this.
A lot of reasons not to do it on C-SPAN. People could show both. Does he regret making that statement?
If you have insurance that you like, then you will be able to keep that insurance. If you've got a doctor that you like, you will be able to keep your doctor. Nobody is trying to change what works. But I don't think we're going to be able to eliminate employer coverage immediately. There's going to be potentially some transition process. I can envision a decade out, or 15 years out, or 20 years. If you're one of the more than 250 million Americans who already have health insurance, you will keep your health insurance. This law will only make it more secure and more affordable.
It's just untrue. A lot of employers are going to drop their health insurance coverage to dump people on the government-run exchanges.
The concerns about health care and how you pay for it. 1/3 of the funding comes from cuts to Medicare.
Right. It is important for us to make sure this thing is deficit neutral, without tricks. I said I wouldn't sign a bill that didn't meet that criteria.
They used 10 years of revenues and 7 years of spending and said, see, look, over 10 years this pays for itself.
Cutting Medicare by $500 billion. We cut seniors' home health care by 11%.
It's a plan that asks everyone to take responsibility for meeting this challenge. Everybody.
Exempting some from complying with the new healthcare law.
They've been granted a special waiver from key provisions of the new law.
All this coming out in just the first 2 years.
This plan will reduce the cost of healthcare for millions. Instead, they've gone up by $2,200. Premiums, I think, have gone up 9%.
Still leaves 23 million people uninsured.
Let me also address an illegitimate concern that's being put forward by those who are claiming that a public option is somehow a Trojan horse for a single-payer system.
A single-payer healthcare plan, universal healthcare plan. That's what I'd like to see.
I think if we get a good public option, it could reach a single payer, and that's the best way to reach single payer.
Nobody is talking about some government takeover of healthcare. I happen to be a proponent of a single-payer universal healthcare plan, and that should never be purchased with tax increases on middle-class families.
But it's still a tax increase.
That's not true, George. For us to say that you've got to take a responsibility to get health insurance is absolutely not a tax increase. No, but George, you can't just make up that language and decide that that's called a tax increase.
Yeah, I don't think I'm making it up. Merriam-Webster's dictionary. Tax, a charge usually of money imposed by authority on persons or property for public purposes.
George, the fact that you looked up Merriam's dictionary, the definition of tax increase indicates to me that you're stretching a little bit right now.
But you reject that it's a tax increase?
I absolutely reject that notion.
But if Obamacare isn't a tax, why did the president's lawyers tell the Supreme Court it is a tax?
If they don't pay the tax, they violated the federal law.
But as long as they've paid the penalty.
If they paid the tax, then they're in compliance with the law.
Extraordinary decision out of the Supreme Court this morning that this is in effect a tax.
They flipped the position lawmakers have been taking and insisted that the Affordable Care Act was a tax increase. Chief Justice Roberts agreed with the government's position that the, quote, shared responsibility payment under the Affordable Care Act is a tax and not a penalty.
And Obamacare doesn't have just one tax. It has more than 20 Obamacare tax hikes. That is why Obama didn't want us to know about the Obamacare taxes until it was too late.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
So many people said, back in August 2009, we were all saying this seemed to be a tax. And if it was a tax, then this was going to be the largest tax increase in history.
He broke that promise by implementing Obamacare. We're going to see, as you already mentioned, $500 billion in taxes, the biggest tax hike in American history.
I can make a firm pledge. Under my plan, no family making less than $250,000 a year will see any form of tax increase. Not your income tax, not your payroll tax, not your capital gains taxes, not any of your taxes.
But the president of the campaign said that he made a flat pledge that he would not raise taxes on anybody making under $250. So is that pledge still operative?
Well, again, I think in some ways your question is hypothetical because there are any number of different bills, different proposals. I think the president has outlined what he believes is the very best way to pay for health care.
Hypothetical. He made a pledge. He said, I'm not going to raise taxes on anyone making under $250. Is that pledge still active?
We are going to let the process work its way through.
So it's not.
We're going to let the process work its way through. All right?
If you make under $250,000, you will not see your taxes increase by a single dime. Not your income tax, not your payroll tax, not your capital gains tax.
You have, however, said you would favor an increase in the capital gains tax. As a matter of fact, you said on CNBC, and I quote, I certainly would not go above what existed under Bill Clinton, which was 28%. It's now 15%. That's almost a doubling if you went to 28%. But actually, Bill Clinton in 1997 signed legislation that dropped the capital gains tax to 20%. Right. And George Bush has taken it down to 15%. Right. And in each instance, when the rate dropped, revenues from the tax increased. The government took in more money. And in the 1980s, when the tax was increased to 28%, the revenues went down. So why raise it at all?
Well, Charlie, what I've said is that I would look at raising the capital gains tax for purposes of fairness.
I believe that this country succeeds when everyone gets a fair shot, when everyone does their fair share, when everyone plays by the same rules. It means making sure that the biggest corporations pay their fair share in taxes.
That's why I've asked Congress to close some of the biggest tax loopholes exploited by some of our most profitable corporations to avoid paying their fair share, or in some cases paying taxes at all. It's not right to ask middle-class families to pay more for college before we ask the biggest corporations to pay their fair share of taxes.
CBS News reports that in January, President Obama named General Electric CEO Jeffrey Immelt to head the President's Council on Jobs and Competitiveness. Obama's choice of Immelt came under scrutiny this past week in the wake of a front-page story in the New York Times, which reported that despite $14.2 billion in worldwide profits, including more than $5 billion from U.S. operations, GE did not owe taxes in 2010. Carney was asked why, if the president wants corporate tax reform, he appointed, quote, to the head of the Competitiveness and Jobs Council, a person who is now the poster child for abusing the system to get out of paying taxes.
The Recovery Act and our actions to fix the financial system were decisive in starting to turn the economy around.
Our economy is stronger. That economic heartbeat is growing stronger.
All of them have projects that are shovel-ready.
Shovel-ready projects, shovel-ready projects. We are seeing shovels hit the ground.
Shovel-ready was not as shovel-ready as we expected.
Under my plan of a cap-and-trade system, electricity rates would necessarily skyrocket. Coal-powered plants, natural gas, you name it, whatever the plants were, whatever the industry was, they would have to retrofit their operations. That will cost money. They will pass that money on to consumers. So if somebody wants to build a coal-powered plant, they can. It's just that it will bankrupt them because they're going to be charged a huge sum for all that greenhouse gas that's being emitted.
President Obama is facing new criticism over supporting offshore drilling in Brazil while continuing to back very tough restrictions right here in the U.S.
And the Obama administration is going to lend at least $2 billion to a Brazilian state-owned oil company to finance drilling off that country's shores.
Meanwhile, our federal government, the Obama administration, has virtually shut down the Gulf of Mexico.
In 2009, Barack Obama said,
I'm pledging to cut the deficit by half by the end of my first term in office. And for them to say that we shouldn't be raising the debt ceiling is irresponsible.
The way Bush has done it over the last 8 years, number 43 added $4 trillion by his lonesome. That's irresponsible. It's unpatriotic.
The challenge facing the United States is that we have to be right one time. 100% of the time. It's hard for me to explain why that was the case. Just take my word for it. Just seems like I was here yesterday. I was. Kind of. Anybody here got 4 kids? 3 kids? You got 4? 4. 3, okay. All right, wait. I don't know why I asked that. Oh, I know why I asked it. The best way to defeat this enemy in the long run is to deny them the recruiting tools that are and recruitments made possible by resentment. I'd like to stay here all day, but I gotta go to Vegas. Something about what goes on there stays there, or something like that, you know. Thanks for coming. Be seated. Thanks for coming. Welcome to the White House. Thanks for coming. He didn't like the way the cotton shirts that he wore absorbed, his bodily fluids. Last night, Jeb and I had some crabs. Look like members of the 1972 Miami Dolphins. Dan Marino and his really dynamic wife. TV stars, Andy Garcia. I like to mountain bike. I like to put a little country and western music on my iPod. I think the Japanese people are going to like the taste of U.S. beef. Matter of fact, I had a good slice of beef last night. I can see Laura beginning to grimace a little bit. She said, he's getting awfully windy. It's a Texas term. Let me... I'm serious about it. You'll be. Let me. There would have been a deficit, but there wouldn't have been the commiserate, the kick to our economy. Are you having burritos for lunch? The tourists. Barney is my dog. That House Republicans last fall passed strong earmark reform idea. Put forth earmark reform ideas. 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, tell people why I say that. I mean, I think they're cost effective. That there be a stable Iran. Iran that is capable of rejecting Iranian influence. I mean, Iraq. I like to fish. I met an onion grower today at the airport when I arrived, and he said, "You got to help me find people that'll pull onions, pluck them, or whatever you do with them, you know." And it is a. I think it is. And it's a. The elections. I think tide turning. As I remember, I was raised in the desert, but tides kind of. It's easy to see a tide turn. Did I say those words?
When the world was on the brink of nuclear holocaust, Kennedy talked to Khrushchev, and he got those missiles out of Cuba. Why shouldn't we have the same courage and the confidence to talk to our enemies? That's what strong countries do. That's what strong presidents do. That's what I'll do when I'm president of the United States of America. This young man named Barack Obama got one of those tickets and came over to this country. And he met this woman whose great-great-great-great-grandfather had owned slaves. But she had a different idea. There's some good craziness going on because they looked at each other and they decided, we know that in the world as it has been, it might not be possible for us to get together and have a child. But something's stirring across the country because of what happened in Selma, Alabama, because some folks are willing to march across a bridge. And so they got together and Barack Obama Jr. was born. So don't tell me I don't have a claim on Selma, Alabama. Don't tell me I'm not coming home when I come to Selma, Alabama. I'm here because somebody marched. We're all free. I had a uncle who was one of the, who was part of the first American troops to go into Auschwitz and liberate the concentration camps. And the story in our family is that when he came home, he just went up into the attic and he didn't leave the house for 6 months.
Tragedy in Kansas. 10,000 people died. An entire town destroyed.
On this Memorial Day, as our nation honors its unbroken line of fallen heroes, and I see many of them in the audience here today.
So we just don't have enough capacity right now to deal with, and it's not just troops, by the way. It's like Arabic interpreters, Arab language speakers. We only have a certain number of them, and if they're all in Iraq, then it's harder for us to use them. And obviously they may not speak Arabic, but the various dialects that they speak in Afghanistan, oftentimes people who speak Urdu or Pashtun or whatever the languages are, they're going to be needed in those areas, and a lot of them have ended up being placed elsewhere.
What all of us strive for is freedom as Franklin Delano Roosevelt described it. Political freedom, religious freedom, but also freedom from want and freedom from fear. At our best, the United States has been a force for these four freedoms in the Americas. But if we're honest with ourselves, we'll acknowledge that at times we failed to engage the people of the region with the respect owed to a partner. Now, when George Bush was elected, he held out the promise that this would change. He raised the hopes of the region that our engagement would be sustained instead of piecemeal. He called Mexico our most important bilateral relationship. He pledged to make Latin America a fundamental commitment of his presidency. And it seemed that a new 21st century era had dawned. Almost 8 years later, those hopes have been dashed. Since the Bush administration launched a misguided war in Iraq, its policy in the Americas has been negligent towards our friends, ineffective with our adversaries, disinterested in the challenges that matter in people's lives, and incapable of advancing our interests in the region. No wonder, then, that demagogues like Hugo Chavez have stepped into this vacuum.
Because, you know, it is just wonderful to be back in Oregon, and over the last 15 months we've traveled to every corner of the United States. I've now been in 57 states. I think one left to go. Alaska and Hawaii I was not allowed to go to, even though I really wanted to visit, but my staff would not justify.
All right, I'm going to wrap this show up, ladies and gentlemen. You've been listening to the Scrap Pile Podcast with Mr. E. Follow me on Twitter at MiztirE. Like the Facebook page, Scrap Pile Podcast. I'm available at Stitcher.com, YouTube, MiztirE. And if you're listening on YouTube, get over to Spreaker, man. Check it out. All right, that's it. Peace!